And I want to introduce Sanjay Krishnamurthi to you. Now, Sanjay is Informatica's Global Chief Technology Officer. He is the Global Chief Architect for Informatica and really is the custodian of our direction for our tools and products and what we're going to. He also looks after acquisitions, and when he has spare time, I think it's between about 4 a.m. and 5 a.m., he likes to ride push bikes. So he's a busy gentleman, and thank you, Sanjay. I'll hand to you, and welcome to the stage, please.
Thank you. Good morning. And I'd like to welcome all of you for braving the weather and braving the traffic and joining us this morning. As Gary said, I'm going to be talking about our intelligent data platform. So you all have heard the hype about big data, right? I just want to maybe double click on that a little bit. What exactly does that mean? Clearly, the data volumes are growing up, right? Traditionally, it's all been about business transactions and the data that originates from business transactions. But now, big data is not just about business transactions. Right. Some of these business data is actually moving to cloud, as some of you know. Some of the edge applications from within the enterprise have now moved on to the cloud. Salesforce is a good example where they took CRM and they put that in the cloud. Now things like Workday, where they have taken HCM application and put that in the cloud as well. So clearly the data is now fragmenting, is going from within your enterprise onto the cloud. That's interesting, but maybe not that interesting, right? What's happening next is that you actually have social interaction data that's in the cloud, and enterprise want to make sure that they can bring that to maybe make better decisions. Right? You may want to do brand management. You may want to see when you have a product introduction, how's that being reacted to? What's the Twitter reaction to that? Maybe you take the data, bring that in, and that may help you make better decisions in terms of what products you bring out next. Right? Pretty much all of you have mobile devices today, right? Today, I think mobile adoption is mostly about consumer, but slowly, things go from consumer adoption to enterprise adoption. Slowly, all the enterprise applications will also move to in that direction. And then, one thing that doesn't get enough attention, maybe Gary talked about that a little bit, is the whole Internet of Things, where all the machines are communicating with each other. And if you step back and think about it, it's really a data management problem, right? All these machines are generating a lot of big data that needs to be processed, stored somewhere, processed, and then you can do analytics on top of that. So what are some of the use cases for that? It's not just about, I know Gary talked about as the Fitbit is actually collecting the information, maybe they can actually do a targeting of one where they can target that maybe you need new shoes. But it actually goes beyond that, right? I like to think that big data has a promise beyond just selling stuff to you, right? Just clearly that's going to be there, and that's going to be one of the drivers for big data. But one of our customers is actually a leading cancer research hospital in the United States, and they want to master all the clinical data that's out there. And now you guys know that even the genomics data, the cost has gone down quite a bit. Right? It used to be the case that it used to cost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to actually do genome sequencing. Price has come down in the last 15 years to less than, it's in hundreds of dollars, and I expect the price to come down further. Now, what they want to do is they want to bring all of that data, and they want to correlate the genomics data with the clinical trial data, so they can give you a much better prognosis in terms of what treatments are effective. And their hope is that by the year 2020, 5 of the 7 leading cancers out there, they might actually have a cure for by leveraging the big data. I don't know whether they'll get there, but I sure hope so. Similarly, in the Internet of Things, while personal internet devices are being used, data is being generated, one of the interesting use cases I have seen is we have companies that they have jet engines like GE and United Technologies. Every time a jet engine flies, takes a flight, they actually end up generating almost a terabyte of data. And once the flight arrives, they offload that data. And what they want to do is take that data and do proactive maintenance, not necessarily real time, but once they have done that, they basically want to be able to do proactive maintenance so that rather than having a scheduled maintenance and doing maintenance that's not really required or being late on some of the maintenance, by doing this analysis, they can actually make sure that they only do the maintenance that's required and they do it in a timely fashion. I'm sure all these use cases that we can relate to. So key point here is data is not just about better e-commerce. It's about new purposes which are, some of them, we are still discovering, and I do think it has the potential to change our lives. So what does it mean? All of you here are data professionals. What does it mean to you guys? So as we've gone from maybe a application-centric world where all the actions of having the applications within on-premise to more data-centric world where data gets generated first and applications get built on top of that, right? The whole data profession itself is changing. Now, this is actually a study that was done, and Indeed.com is a job search site, and they looked at how the career or how the job sites, how the job requirements themselves are changing. Right? So if you look at Chief Data Officer, it's a new title. Maybe 15 years back, there was no such title in any enterprise. How many of you guys actually have Chief Data Officer in your company? I think about 15% of Fortune 500 in US actually have that, and if you project out, I expect that maybe another 5 years, it's probably going to be 70 or 80%, because people see data as a strategic asset, and they want somebody to be responsible for the data. Same thing about Information Security Officer. Many years back, you only had a title of Chief Security Officer, and these guys' job was really to buy firewalls, because that's what security is all about. But now people have come to realization the security is not so much about taking a perimeter and securing that. That has some value, but it's really about your information that needs to be secured. Right? So now, because of the rise of data, security itself is shifting away from the perimeter to the data. Same thing with data scientists. I know I'm not sure how prevalent it is here, but in US it's the hottest job. In fact, one of the famous quotes is from Hal Varian, the chief economist at Google. He said that if you want your kids to be growing up to be data scientists, because in 10 years that's going to be the sexiest job. Reason is there's all this data is being collected, but there's not enough manpower out there to make sense of the data. You need to be able to look at this data in context and then make better decisions, and not just that, be able to visualize, paint a story. Right? This is going to be a job. So as data professionals, I would say as in this new age of data, the role of data professionals is becoming more and more important. Okay? And it's not just job site. As Gary mentioned earlier, CEOs now see data as a very strategic asset. Earlier this year, PwC did a survey where they polled all the CEOs, and I think 88% of the respondents said that they really need to figure out how they can leverage the data they already have. And 90% of them are actually now saying that they're going to re-look at the investments they are making. Maybe they won't invest in the latest applications that are out there. They really want to invest in some of the data exploration technologies, right? And that would actually explain some of the growth that you're seeing in the world of big data and the growth you're seeing in advanced analytics. So what I would say is that, as data professionals, you guys are in the right place. These are definitely very interesting times if you're a data professional, and center of gravity is shifting from people who used to do and know applications to people who do data. Right? So let me drill down a little bit further and see what it means. I talked about big data is coming, it's changing the businesses that are out there today. Right? Now, how's IT going to evolve? So let me maybe just walk through history a little bit and talk about how IT started adopting computing first. So in the very beginning, it was all about increasing the productivity. In fact, if you go back, say, 40, 50 years ago, the very first IBM machines that were built out and sold were really about, they were known as accounting machines. They're really geared towards businesses automating the payroll, automating the back office. And then IBM had a lot of success. There are other companies who had success as well. And then some of the IBM guys actually decided that they're going to go to the next departmental function, and they decided to automate manufacturing. And SAP actually came out of that. SAP founders were actually guys from IBM. Right? So that was the next level of automation. Automation went from one department, which was payroll and accounting, to manufacturing. Okay. I think the same pattern continued. People went from automating manufacturing to yet another department. What was the next department? Human resources. So this is where Workdays of the world came. Initially, when it was accounting, this predated the world of relational databases. So the persistence layer was mostly IDMS or EDABAS. These are the network or hierarchical databases. Some of you in the audience might know this. Many of you are probably too young to know about that. But then came relational database, and all the new applications were all built on relational databases, right? So things like PeopleSoft, they're all sort of client-server technology built on top of Oracle, SQL Server, Ingress. Some of them have disappeared. Right? And then came Siebel, which was really about automating yet another departmental applications, which is about the front office. Take your front office application and now computerize that, right? And that's where Siebel was successful. And finally, around the time Netscape came, there was people decided, maybe you can put some of this stuff in cloud, and this is where Ariba came in, where they took supply chain and automated that as well. So it's all about automating application, one application at a time, one department at a time. Okay. This is what we mean by application-centric world. These all applications are silos, and then people realized that maybe you need to connect that, so they came up with this layer called middleware, and this is where those of you who are veterans, EAI technologies came. They would actually let you have various adapters between these different applications and let you connect that. And around the same time, people realized that these relational databases were good for transactions, but you needed a new class of relational databases like warehouses for doing analytics. And that's where Teradata's of the world came, and then Informatica was born. Okay? So this is sort of 50-year history of IT in 5 minutes. Right. Now that has to change, right? As we're talking about the world of big data, right? Because it's no longer just about business productivity. Yes, you still need the ability to integrate data. Data is fragmented now. It's no longer on-premise. Some of the applications, some of the edge applications are now in cloud. If you looked at as you saw in my previous slide, things have sort of gone, automation happened from left to right. Now things are moving to the cloud, right to left. Procurement was already in the cloud. Now CRM is moved to the cloud first. HCM is moved to the cloud. Slowly, even accounting is moving to the cloud with things like NetSuite. So yes, things are moving to cloud, but that's really about providing more agility, right? I don't know how many of you guys remember, but if you bought PeopleSoft, it took you 3 years to implement PeopleSoft. And every time they came up with an upgrade, you had an army of consultants that did the upgrade for you. That was very painful. So that's why people said, let's go to cloud. It solves a lot of those problems. Okay. But now, just bringing the application data together is not good enough. Right? In the new world of IT, you may actually need to bring data that's not necessarily in your application sitting in the cloud. It may be in a third-party application. It may be sitting in LinkedIn. It may be sitting in Twitter, and you may need to bring that in. Right? I talked about brand management. Your CMO really wants to figure out how exactly is it that a given campaign is being, is being received. And Twitter may be one of the fields or one of the data feeds you might want to bring in order to analyze your campaign. Okay. As I said, mobile applications, we are in the early stages of mobile applications, very much consumer-centric, but more and more as your workforce becomes more mobile, you'll have enterprise applications that are going to be mobile as well. Right? And these will have two sets of needs. They need access to the data that's sitting within your enterprise, so you want to make sure that you can expose your enterprise data in some form with all the security provisions in place to these mobile devices. And then these mobile devices now have their own persistence layer, right? Pretty much no mobile application, worth its, no self-respecting mobile application is going to put data in relational systems. They take all these JSON documents and put them in specialized JSON stores. Right? This is where you hear about MongoDB and all these other databases. This is where their growth comes from, because people are storing JSON documents in that, because they don't necessarily want to be limited to relational databases, because they're not as agile, right? Of course, they give you a lot of governance, they restrict your data model, but evolution of the data model becomes challenging. And for quick and dirty applications, they really don't want to go through that. Okay? And all of these machines that are generating data, right? This may be aircraft, this may be a Fitbit, this may be machines on the shop floor that are generating logs, or these may be even your web servers that are sitting on the edge of the network that are recording every interaction that's going on. Everybody that comes to a website, they take that interaction and they log it, and you want to bring that in. And these databases are not going to be your traditional relational databases, right? Because agility is one problem, the cost is the problem. So people take all of this log data and dump it in systems like Hadoop. As you guys know, Hadoop is really one of the main use cases for Hadoop today, in addition to all the fraud analytics, is log processing. People bring all of that data. That's where MapReduce, that's where Google's distributed computing system evolved. One was to do indexing, other was to do log processing so they can optimize the ad placement. And now Hadoop is seeing that same use case. Okay. So as a data professional, you have to be able to support not just your traditional relational databases that are accessed by that are created by applications or that are accessed by your existing applications. You need to be able to take data from things that are in the cloud, things that are in new age of data systems. So how are you going to solve this problem? One approach is do what you're doing today, which is have all of these links which are different for every technology. So you may have one link that's sort of ETL based, another link that's EAI based, third link that's based on some hand coding that you do. You're going to find out pretty soon this is not going to scale, because if you step back, right, and really sort of boil down to what's going on, there are a lot more data consumers and there are a lot more data producers. And the job of data management platform is to actually link these two. Make sure that your data producers, the data they produce can be consumed by whoever your data consumers are. Right? And this approach is not going to scale. So what's really needed is a new way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the new way. Okay? So how does IT need to change in order to address this? Okay. So in the old world, pretty much, as I mentioned, everything was on-premise. Right? All your applications were on-premise. And then as you needed to integrate this, either you needed EAI or you needed ETL, or you needed some combination of thereof. Maybe for some operational integration, you used EAI. For more analytic integration, you used ETL. Right? And this is where I think Informatica was born, and a lot of people set up ICCs, and you guys are experts in this. Okay? But as more and more applications are moving to cloud, you need hybrid data integration. This data integration is going to be some of the data sitting on-premise, some of the data sitting on the cloud, and your integration may either be on-premise or it may be in cloud, or it may be a combination thereof. Okay. Some integration would go through the traditional ETL development process, and some integration is really going to require self-service, because these are applications that, given the agility, business may adopt very quickly, and you maybe want to, rather than you being an ETL developer being in the data path, in order to enable agility of your business users, you might actually just enable your users to do the integration. Okay? And some of the integration may be in the cloud. So we are going from a world of on-premise integration to a truly hybrid, because I don't expect that all your applications are going to be in the cloud. Maybe 50 years down the road, it might be, maybe 30 years down the road, but I think it's going to be a journey for that. Just like a large number of our customers still have data sitting in mainframe, right? Even though we've gone through 3 generations of computing, all the way from client server to an open source, all the way to web, but yet you have very important data sitting in mainframe. Similarly, I think future is going to be hybrid, at least for most of our lifetimes. Okay. Some of you have actually adopted MDM. MDM is really about taking we all know all data is not created equal. There's transactional data, and then there's a reference or master data. Master data is much more valuable. That's why you take all of that, create a golden record. And if you're really sophisticated in this, you may actually have a multi-domain master, where you may have a customer master, you may have a product master, and you use these relationships across all of these in order for you to maybe figure out how do I do cross-sell or upsell, which customer has bought which product, and how can I sell them additional product. Okay. But as we go into this more hybrid world, you may want to bring data, you may want to bring attributes for your customer which are not in any of your on-premise applications. You may need to have LinkedIn ID or LinkedIn profile for your customer. So let's say that you need to meet with that customer, or you need to influence that customer. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually go to that, go to your application, look up the LinkedIn profile and figure out if there are any connections that you have. Do you have any connections in common? Maybe you can get some introduction and then use that to maybe influence that buyer. Right? You have a customer MDM. If you have their Twitter ID, you can actually look up and see how, are they very active in social media? Do they have a lot of followers? Are they really influent? What are their interests? Maybe there's, that's another way to have a conversation with your customer. Okay. So we are going to go from on-premise MDM hub, which is very centric to all the data that's on-premise, to bringing data attributes which are in the internet. Okay, and we're calling this Internet of Master Data. And here, your attributes are different, and rather than on-premise MDM, where most of your users were really data stewards who were really curating the data, now you want to use this to provide context for your business users as well. Okay. Most of you, given that you are Informatica customers, most of you have a pretty large footprint in the analytics world within your company. Okay. The world of analytics itself is changing. Traditionally, it was all about a data warehouse. You took all of the data, put that in a warehouse, and then you did your analytics. Most of this was aggregate analytics. What products do I take? Who do I position to? What products do I take, and which geographies do they sell well? How do I do product placement within a shop? These are sort of the classic analytics problems that were being solved. Okay. Now, the world of analytics itself is changing. Right? Now you have analytical cloud services. Amazon has a new service. I don't know how many of you actually have seen that yet. It's called Amazon Redshift. Idea is that you can actually spin up a warehouse very quickly. You can load it up, do a quick and dirty analysis, and then you can spin it down without actually having a lot of upfront cost. And I think their cost is really something like $999 for a terabyte for a year. That's the data cost that they have. Okay, it's mind-boggling. This has the way of changing how you go about creating data marts. Similarly, now you have in-memory analytics computation platforms. Many of you may have heard of SAP HANA. This is about, given that memory capacities are increasing, why worry about all this writing stuff to disk and all the optimization that's involved? Why don't you load everything in memory and do your analytics? This is just scratching the surface. There are new projects on top of Hadoop itself, which are very memory-centric. Okay. So the new class of analytics that are coming in. Right. More than that, I think the whole BI or analytics business itself is changing. If you look at what used to happen, if you look at what used to happen in BI, you have an ETL developer that will put stuff in a warehouse. Then you have a report developer that's taking that data from the warehouse, creating reports, and then exposing it to power users. This is where Cognos and business objects, et cetera, used to rule the roost. But if you look back in the past, say, 4 or 5 years, most of the BI growth has come from the so-called agile BI companies, Tableaus and ClickText, and I'm sure you have a lot of users who use that. This is really about self-service. This is about self-service analytics. They just want to, they just say, give me the data, I want to explore that. Okay. I think and especially as the data volumes grow up, I don't think the current model of data or the current data supply chain you have out there, where you take all of this data, go through an ETL process, which is heavily governed, and then give that data to the business user, that's going to cut it. It's simply not going to scale. So IT has to evolve to a business model where they are enablers of business. You just make sure that your business users can get to the data. They can discover the data themselves. Not just self-service analytics, it's also going to be some self-service data. But keep in mind, this is not a license to just, to get rid of all governance. Clearly, there's a place for governance, and your data provisioning has to be fit for purpose. So I believe that there's going to be a new paradigm, if you will, for your business users, where they should be able to discover the data, and they should be able to self-provision the data as long as you have, as an IT, you have basically pre-provisioned it and given some stamp of approval. Okay. So this is where we unveiled a project called Data Harmonization, or Project Springbok. It's on. You can find links to our website, really geared towards business users who can do some level of data self-service. They can do some level of data cleansing, data standardization, so that you as a ETL developer or a data professional doesn't have to be involved in everything that they need. I'll give you a classic use case. Right? We have somebody in our sales operations team. every time marketing goes to one of these marketing events, they generate a whole bunch of leads, and they give it to sales ops person. Sales ops person has to now score all of these leads to figure out which of these leads is worth pursuing. How do I score these leads? One of the great sources of augmenting this information could be LinkedIn, right? You know that this person is from xyz.com. You can go to xyz.com profile in LinkedIn, see whether they actually have an opening for an ETL developer, right? So then you know there's a project. Maybe you can use that information to score that additionally. Now, ideally, you want the sales operations guy to be able to do this by himself or herself without actually going through the whole ETL data pipeline. Okay. But again, as I said, this doesn't give you the license for them to completely bypass governance. And once ETL developer or once an analyst or business user feels that this is a recurring pattern and they want data in a certain fashion, they can always, this tool will provide a way for you to always generate the Power Center mappings or ETL mappings so you can operationalize this, right? And you can get more governance on top of that. I talked about the rise of the Chief Information Security Officer. And I think one of the main reasons is the old world of security, and this is the sort of the pre-cloud, pre-big data, that itself is, I would say, not sufficient. As I mentioned earlier, it used to be the case that companies used to put a perimeter around their network infrastructure. They'd open a few ports in the firewall, one for HTTP, one for HTTPS, one for mail, and nothing else would work, right? You can't get to it. At least inbound ports were all closed. The challenge with that is it has two problems. One, people actually figure out that they can actually tunnel through HTTP or email and get into your system. And secondly, it doesn't prevent the malicious insider problem. A malicious insider who's inside your network, he has access to everything. And if you step back and think about what's the problem you're really trying to solve, right? What is the bad guy after? They're really after your data. They're really after all the credit card information you have. They're really after maybe some of the health records you have, or maybe the social security or tax ID number you have. So the data security model has to go from that's network-centric to perimeter-centric. Okay. And I think this is where Informatica, being a data-centric company, has the advantage. We have the technology to know where exactly data is. Pretty much all enterprise information sources we connect to, because chances are if it's important, you'd be taking some of that and doing analytics to that. So we already have connectivity with that. Through our technologies, we can actually give you visibility into, is this data sensitive? We can actually derive semantics using our profiling technology, and we can tell you your social security information is in these data silos out here, right? And given that if you use Power Center for your data propagation, we can also tell you how is the data propagating across your network. First problem to solving the security problem is actually to give you visibility as to where your sensitive data is. Once you have visibility, then you've gone from negligence to responsibility, right? As long as you're negligent, it's okay, but now you know, so now you are responsible. And you can use third-party tools to protect your data. You can use data encryption from any of the database vendors, or we have some products in our portfolio to help you do data masking, etc. Okay. So there's another project or another product that we are unveiling called Secure at Source. It's going to be coming out in Q1 of next year to give you end-to-end visibility on your data assets, right? So at least you know where your vulnerable data is. Okay. So I talked about a new way, right? I said as we go to this new world of big data, new world of data everywhere, the data-centric world, what exactly is it that we need to do, right? It's our thesis that you basically need a new data management platform, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The key goal of this data management platform is to enable you as data professionals to take all of the data that's being generated by all of these data producers and enable your data consumers, be it business analysts, be it analytical applications, be it warehouses, be it applications that are built on top of master data. Okay. So how's this different, right? Everybody talks about a platform. How's this different? I would classify platform maybe in three broad classes. One is these what I call API platforms, really geared towards 3GL developers, and this is where the J2E platforms of the world came in. Or you have business platforms like eBay's platform or Facebook's platform that let you build something on top, build new applications on Facebook or new applications on top of eBay. This is different from that, right? This is really about, this is not meant for 3GL developers. This is really about data professionals like you to be able to take this and enable all the data-centric business processes that happen within your enterprise. Okay. So let me sort of click down a little bit on what exactly constitutes this platform. So this is not something completely new. This is a culmination of the work that we've done over the last 20 years. Right? As you know, we are the only company that's completely focused on data management. Right? Started out as ETL, and we've grown our portfolio. Right? As you go in your data maturity cycle, you go from hand coding your ETL jobs to maybe using tools like Informatica because of all the benefits that they give you. Then you move on to data quality, but because you realize just integrating data is not enough. You need to make sure the data is clean and it's actually standardized, right? And meets all your business rules. Then you may realize that maybe some of the data needs to be mastered, right? Because I have some business imperatives like single customer centricity. These are different data management maturity, different levels of data management maturity. The goal of this data platform is to enable you to get to that level of data maturity. Next level of data maturity may be that I want to retire my data that's no longer needed. I want to govern the security characteristics of my data so I can comply with all the regulations that are there. Right? It may be that I actually want to enable business users to self-service that data. So goal of this platform is to get to that level of maturity. So it does build on things that we have done over the years. It's not about throwing away the work you've done. Right? If you look at all the platforms that are there before, as you went from mainframe to client server to internet as the platform, you basically had to discard all the work. We think this platform is different because it lets you adopt new technologies without actually discarding. In fact, it lets you build on the work you've already done. Right? We have customers who take on the mappings they've developed today for Power Center and they're deploying it to our Informatica cloud. We have customers who take on the mapping they deployed for loading data into data warehouse like Teradata, and they're now pushing that to Hadoop because they want to use Hadoop as their as a staging area before they take curated data and put in a warehouse, maybe for better workload management. And you'll hear about some of that later today. Okay. So I do want to talk about what is it that platform enables, right? It's really meant for you as data professionals to make sure that you get the right data, right? Making sure that it's getting all the data that's relevant, it's cleansed, right? So that it conforms to all the business rules that you have, and make sure that you enable it in an agile way. So sometimes your business users can self-service themselves. So as I mentioned, we are in this new age of data, and this new age of data really has the capability to transform your business. Right? It can disrupt existing businesses, it can create new businesses, or it can transform existing businesses themselves. Great example is, Google came in, right? They, because of the fact, not because they were able to do search, yeah, that's important, but they had a lot more data. They could actually, give a much better service to advertisers. That's why all the newspapers are in trouble, right? So data really has a way to disrupt existing businesses and promote new businesses. And I think you guys, with Informatica's with the background and Informatica's intelligent data platform, have the ability to help transform your business. Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Sanjay. It was a great session on perspective from a data-centric world.